Even though I said I wasn't gonna make another video about this, I feel like I have to now. After I released my video about Air Warfare a couple of days ago, I got messages, friend requests, and some criticism regarding my video, which I'll address right now. I have this statement made by Eglim, a Air Warfare lead developer, which I will address later. The most amount of criticism I got was trusting ROBLOX'S word, which I admit was an honest mistake, and I should have used a wholesome Reddit Chungus website, which I also forgot to mention that the Air Warfare subreddit isn't official. The only reason I used it was because it was the closest thing to an Air Warfare community outside the game and Discord server. But yes, it was kind of stupid of me to take it as fact. And no, there isn't one developer for the game. I just used it as a joke. Anyway, in the video, people got mad at me for painting ROBLOX as a bad guy, which wasn't their intention at all. It was just a criticism towards the Air Warfare team, including ROBLOX. I called him a hypocrite because he exposed the Air Warfare team, but turned around and joined back to the alleged Degenerate community that he exposed in his video. But the intention wasn't to paint him as a villain, so I'm sorry to anyone who thought I did. And apparently he did exploit, but the intent she got him and even gave away copies of 3.0 to other people, which by definition is leaking. Anyway, Eglim also addresses the N-word video. Eglim was actually 15, according to her. She was just trying to be edgy and is sorry for saying it. And the suggestive art that I mentioned was real, and the OC attached to said art was heavily exaggerated, and the artist was also a minor. I still don't think that makes it right though. And there's now word of the community making better rules and regulations to prevent these kind of things from happening again, which credit to them for changing. Anyway, my video regarding the Air Warfare community really didn't revolve around them, but rather revolved around an individual named Crush. And I really don't want to waste my breath on what she's done, so if you aren't caught up, I put my previous video in the description. And if you are caught up, I will continue where I left off. Even though I just said I don't want to waste my breath, I kind of have to give background on Crush, as she's actually kind of popular within the Roblox community without people realizing what she's done. Crush owns two semi-successful Roblox groups that publish various games with hundreds of thousands of visits. One is named Shrunkos, with 4,454 members, with their most popular game being Dopey Fighters 3 with over 900,000 visits. The second group, named Myra's Lab, has over 21,000 members, and the most successful game being formerly known as Tedious RPG with over 11 million visits. And the second game, named Myra's Lookout, has over 289,000 visits. Anyway, a few days after I released the video, someone who I will disclose as anonymous contacted me regarding Crush through Discord. They sent me a bunch of evidence and accusations specifically towards Crush, and it's really bad. And all the evidence isn't in timeline order, so I would go into order by what information they gave me first, all the way to the last pieces of information I got. And the first piece of information is directly where I finished off my first video, which was Crush allegedly making threats towards an Air Warfare developer who is Egling, and even making a song about doing said action. At first, to me, this was just an allegation of like very little evidence. But now I have a video with clear evidence of Crush making these threats, and even the full lyrics, which I don't even know if I can even put up on screen, since YouTube might take this video down. In this conversation with Crush and the person in the video, I also has Crush making death threats towards two Air Warfare developers who both confirmed that they feel unsafe and even threatened by these comments in the lyrics. Given that Crush is placed in a community filled with minors is really concerning. While I was talking, I found out that Crush, from when I started talking to this person, which was May 13, Crush was or is currently dating a 13-year-old while currently being 16. And yes, Crush did know this person was 13, even after they started dating, with even audio evidence of Crush acknowledging their age and multiple other people saying that the person was 13.
We're not romantical though, we're more platonic, is that right? Yeah, no, platonic.
Yeah, it's
Platonic.
more platonic.
Wait, 13?
Yeah.
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 Oh.
Gmail allegedly sent this 13-year-old disturbing content like gore and some other things I can't even mention. And despite all the grooming allegations towards Crush, she just won't stop! I got word of a toxic relationship that Crush was involved in. And Crush was extremely manipulative towards the victim, with the victim even later admitting that they felt manipulated and groomed by Crush, with Crush silencing the victim when asked if they both did sexual interactions together in Discord. This is clear manipulation and is something that Crush should be outed for, as it's just awful. And despite the amount of evidence and testimonies towards Crush, she resorted to calling everyone liars and publicly ranting on her Discord server about the Air Warfare team and denying everything against her. And most recently, Crush has changed her entire profile for basically everything, even leaving out the mentions of their past name from the YouTube channel, clearly trying to cover up what Crush has done. And so, with all this information being disclosed to me, after days of pondering, I finally requested Crush to have an interview with me, and I will finally know what Crush is thinking or was thinking during all of this. And luckily for me, they haven't watched my video yet, which is great. I first asked general questions about their games and essentially started to slowly but quietly rant about Air Warfare's development team, and tried to make the excuse that they were being gaslit and manipulated by the community for being outed as a groomer. Crush also mentioned that they grew a Degenerate community from TDS RPG, and funnily enough, Crush mentions Doping Fighters 3, which they said that the decisions that they made did in fact raise controversy, and defended that by saying that Rubinson would understand, as Crush got accepted by ERP Searcher for some reason. Trust me, Crush, I don't think Rubinson will like you at all. They also dodged my question of what happened in Air Warfare. What are your defenses? By saying that what happened in Air Warfare was simply a misunderstanding, but was manipulated into having a motive into painting Crush as a bad person. Not once has Crush mentioned the allegations, nor what they have done after, until I told them about the boycott that Dopey Fighters 3 is involved in. Crush even calls Air Warfare a group of fascists. Crush, you're being outed as a groomer. Of course people won't defend or like you at first. Considering the fact that most of your friends also turn on you after this, says a lot. I then asked what they thought about the Air Warfare community, which Crush replied with, and I quote, "Misunderstood, unaware grown victims, and believes that conflict versus conflict is the key to every solution. Keep that quote in mind." Crush also mentions the lyrical documents that I mentioned in my other video, which Crush says that it's a depth of view of themselves, and it's basically a Venn document made out of anger, and Zachary is a tale of Crush's paranoia and the effect that the Air Warfare team has had on them. And so I asked another question, which was, how has that affected your career, and how has it changed you as a person in general? Which Crush replied with, and I quote, "Nothing. Nobody read it or understood me, so when I screamed in shorter context, they opposed me, with no question. I felt broken." Yes, Crush. Of course, when you make two documents that are written in lyrics, it won't be taken seriously. Now, I don't know why it's hard for you to understand that. It's just not a good way to respond to anything, especially with this kind of matter. Anyway, I then asked Crush what their favorite Tyler the Creator song was, as I noticed how much Crush loves his music. And as a Tyler fan myself, I had to know what they like. Personally, I wouldn't say 7 is my favorite song on Bastard. I'm more of a Pigs Fly type of guy. Anyway, after saying that Air Warfare attacked them and ranted more and more about the team, Crush sent me more videos and explained that the Air Warfare team basically neglects victims, and it really pisses Crush off. These recordings simply just tell me that Crush just wants to seem innocent, but not entirely saying it. I also found a new document relating to Crush, which I will also link in the description, and as soon as I found this document, I archived it. I then asked if Crush made a song or any lyrical writings at all, to which Crush responded, and I quote, "Well, I have written a couple, but they are scrap." Following this, I sent Crush the screenshot of the rape song they made and admitted to making it, but was going to be a track for an album that was later revised to be a bonus track from an album related to Air Warfare, but they never ended up releasing it. I then asked directly if this track was about raping Egglame, which Crush responded by saying, and I quote, "On the surface, yes. And that's how Air Warfare wants to leave it cut and dry. Egglame is one of my longest term friends ever, and seeing how she turned on me from the VOD, it broke me. I written this diving into Egglame's boundaries. Everything is hate, and that was the only way I could express just losing a friend who said farewell to later see her in the opposite side, going at me, mocking me, and making me feel less safe." Okay, so basically, Egglame turned on Crush, and so in response, Crush made a song about sexually assaulting and raping Egglame. Good. Great response, Crush. You really know how to address drama. And then Crush backtracked and said that they only sent it to see how Air Warfare twists narratives. Dude, there is no twisting narratives. This song is literally just about being a real, living, breathing person. And from Egglame's response, she felt genuinely threatened. And Crush's response to this? Good. That's how you all made me feel for years. I'm not even going to respond, nor argue with this point of view, so I'm just going to move on. I then asked if Crush knew about the alleged current 13-year-old they were dating, and Crush said that he was an ex-boyfriend. I then asked if they knew how old he was, which Cross said that they were 13, and soon asked why. I then told them, and you are 16? Which they responded with, yes, and their birthday being in August. Mere months away. Cross then confirms that they were dating until they broke up in April, but still talked. Then they said that they both started dating in January or February, and as a kind person myself, I then corrected Cross by saying that they dated in January and sent a screenshot confirming that claim. Cross says that the relationship had boundaries and didn't want to make him uncomfortable while dating a 13-year-old. Cross says that the 3-year age gap wasn't a problem to them and said, and I quote, "But I can understand from my past history." What? I then confronted Cross with the allegation of setting a 13-year-old gore, which Cross denied, but said that this claim was made because he showed the minor and someone else police footage, but it was blurred. Then said that the minor isn't actually purely 13, but rather turning 14, which basically means that they're currently 13. And then Cross pulled out the legality card about the age of consent in Canada being 16, which means that what Cross is doing is legal in their eyes. This is classic people talk. It just indicated to me that they're guilty, but are doing these insane mental gymnastics to try to justify it. And apparently the minor's birthday is in January. And apparently they also lied about their age. Cross didn't notice until our conversation, and it's just baffling to me. After the 4 months they've dated, Cross didn't even know the true age of this person, which is just plain ignorant and dangerous. I then asked if a 4-year age gap is too much, and if a 3-year age gap is okay to them, which Cross responded by saying, and I quote, "A 3-year age gap is okay depending on boundaries," and I said boundaries for and me, and where we live it's legal. This is beautiful. The best case of defending an age gap I've seen by far. He didn't defend the 4-year age gap by saying that they were influenced by the tedious RPG phase and the community surrounding it. The community that Cross made. I then said this exact sentence by Cross, and they responded by backtracking and said, and I quote, "Yeah, I think you're asking a bit too much questions. Why do you want me to clarify that in sudden detail when I acknowledge and known for that?" Clearly trying to back away from my question. After trying to tell them that they should be outed for influencing them for this kind of mindset, Cross refused, adding that exposing this side is essentially useless as most outsider communities don't like them and will ask why I'm helping them. Cross is not going to believe what I'm actually doing. After turning to Shakespeare and saying, "There is no healing in revenge, and I'd rather survive than allow more conflict to happen to more potential people who are secretly just broken in the inside, influenced by bad influences." I then replied with, "But you made a rap song for Eglin to combat said revenge. Isn't that a bit hypocritical?" We then started to argue for about 20 minutes about the definition of revenge and the First Amendment. Like, this guy started to have a law degree trying to defend a rap song and how it isn't actually a threat, but rather a way to artistically express anger. In response, I sent more screenshots of Cross basically saying death threats to Air Warfare developers, but twisted the words into convincing themselves that this isn't actually a threat because it wasn't planned nor acted on. And then Cross said, and I quote, "You know, the fact these are being sent to me make me smile. Not because I'm masochistic, because everything's going according to how I knew what would happen." Wow, man, you're really intimidating me. I'm practically pissing my pants right now. Cross, I don't give a about what you think nor what your terrible defenses are. You are genuinely a horrible human being. They then defend the threats by saying that it's just freedom of speech, despite threats not being protected by the First Amendment. And so I asked my final question. Do you like potatoes? I then got banned and blocked by Cross, and that's it for my interrogation. Thank you for watching this insane rabbit hole, and have a good day.
I like potatoes.
Yeah, this is the problem I have with Yeah, this is the problem I have with still, like, genuinely. Like, people like him.